In 1850, archaeologists pulled a clay tablet from the ruins of ancient Sumer. Carved into its surface was a list of 8 kings who ruled before a great flood. Their combined reign, 241,200 years. No one has fully explained it. These kings served gods called the Anunnaki, the oldest divine pantheon in recorded history, older than the Greek Olympians, older than the Egyptian gods, written into clay tablets 5,000 years ago by the Sumerians, the civilization that invented writing itself. In 1976, a self-taught linguist named Zechariah Sitchin made a claim that changed everything. He said the Anunnaki weren't gods at all. They were visitors from another planet, an advanced species who came to Earth 450,000 years ago and created humanity as a labor force. Mainstream scholars called his translations a fraud. But here's the thing. The original Sumerian texts, properly translated by credentialed academics, contain claims just as extraordinary as anything Sitchin invented. By the end of this video, you'll know what the tablets actually say about the Anunnaki, and why even the skeptics can't explain all of it. There's one piece of evidence from these texts that almost nobody discusses: a direct connection between the Sumerian creation account and one of the most foundational stories in Western religion. We'll get to that. But first, you need to understand where these texts came from and who wrote them. To understand the Anunnaki, you have to start where civilization started: Mesopotamia, between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in modern-day Iraq. Around 4500 BCE, the Sumerians built the first cities on Earth: Eridu, Uruk, Ur, Nippur, names carved into the foundation of human history. They invented the wheel, the plow, the sailboat, and the 60-minute hour. They developed mathematics, astronomy, and the first system of writing: cuneiform, pressed into wet clay with a reed stylus. They recorded laws, trade deals, hymns, and myths, and they recorded their gods. The Anunnaki, a name that translates to princely offspring or offspring of Anu, the sky god. In Sumerian religion, these weren't abstract spiritual beings. They were depicted as powerful rulers with specific responsibilities and relationships. They had conflicts. They held councils. They made decisions that affected all of humanity. The pantheon was structured like a government. Anu ruled from the heavens as supreme king. His son, Enlil, controlled the wind and the affairs of Earth. His other son, Enki, governed the waters and was credited with humanity's creation. Each major city had a patron god. These deities gave orders and expected obedience. The texts describe the Anunnaki assembling in council to decide the fate of humanity. They decreed laws, distributed land, and determined which cities would rise or fall. The Sumerian word for divine power, Mi, described something close to encoded authority. Objects and offices that carried the force of cosmic law. The Anunnaki weren't confined to heaven. The texts described them walking among humans, residing in temples, consuming offerings of food and drink. They married human women in some accounts. They had children who became demigods. The boundary between the divine and the human in Sumerian religion was far thinner than in later traditions. The most detailed account of the Anunnaki's relationship with humanity comes from the Atrahasis, a Babylonian epic with deep Sumerian roots, dating to roughly 1700 BCE. It describes the gods growing exhausted by their own labor. The Agogi, lower-ranking deities, toiled in the fields, dug the canals, and dredged the rivers. After 40 years of labor, the Agogi revolted, They burned their tools and surrounded Enlil's temple in the dead of night. The Atrahasis records this as a labor uprising, gods refusing to work. Enlil was furious, but Enki proposed a different solution: create a new being, a substitute worker. But the most extraordinary Sumerian text isn't a myth. It's a bureaucratic record, the Sumerian King List, preserved on multiple tablets and a clay prism now housed in the Ashmolean Museum, documents every ruler of Sumer in chronological order, and its opening line is stunning. After the kingship descended from heaven, the kingship was in Eridu. In context, that wasn't metaphor. The Sumerians treated this as administrative fact. Kingship came from somewhere above and was bestowed upon the city of Eridu. And the first king, Alulim, ruled for 28,800 years. 8 kings ruled before the flood. Alulim, 28,800 years. Alaljar, 36,000 years. Enmenluana, 43,200 years. The reigns were measured in sars, each sar equaling 3,600 years. The precision of the numbers suggests this wasn't casual storytelling. It was record-keeping. Then the text records, simply, the flood swept over. After the flood, kingship descended from heaven again, this time to the city of Kish. The reign lengths dropped dramatically, still impossibly long by modern standards, but shorter, as if something fundamental changed in the transition. Historians treat the antediluvian section as mythological. None of those 8 kings have been verified by archaeology, but the post-flood kings, some have been confirmed. Gilgamesh appears on the list, and Mebarajesi of Kish had been verified by independent inscriptions. The line between myth and documented history on this list is not where you'd expect it. The flood itself, the event that divides the King List, appears across multiple Sumerian and Babylonian texts. In the Atrahasis, the gods decide to destroy humanity with a great flood. But Enki secretly warns a man named Atrahasis, "Tear down your house, build a boat, save living things." This story predates the biblical account of Noah by at least 1,000 years. The parallels are nearly exact. A divine warning, a chosen man, a great boat, a flood that destroys all life. Birds sent to find dry land. The question isn't whether these stories are connected. It's which one came first. In 1976, Zechariah Sitchin published The 12th Planet. He wasn't an archaeologist or a linguist by training. He was an economist and journalist who taught himself to read cuneiform over decades of independent study. His central claim was bold. The Anunnaki were extraterrestrials from a planet called Nibiru. Sitchin said Nibiru orbits the sun on a long elliptical path, completing one cycle every 3,600 years. He pointed to the Sumerian Sar, a unit equaling exactly 3,600, as evidence that the Sumerians were recording Nibiru's orbital period. Too precise to be coincidence, he argued. The number appeared everywhere. According to Sitchin, the Anunnaki arrived on Earth approximately 450,000 years ago. Their mission? Mining gold, not for decoration. He claimed they needed gold particles suspended in their planet's atmosphere to protect it from radiation and atmospheric decay. When the lower-ranking Anunnaki mutinied over the brutal mining conditions, Enki proposed a solution: create a worker species by combining Anunnaki DNA with that of early hominids. In Sitchin's reading, the Sumerian creation story is a description of genetic engineering performed by an advanced extraterrestrial civilization. The goddess Ninhursag mixed the blood of a slaughtered god with clay. From that mixture, Humans were born, not as children of the divine, as their replacements in the mines. It's a compelling narrative that connected Sumerian mythology to the ancient astronaut hypothesis, and it sold millions of books. But there's a problem. Mainstream Sumerologists didn't just disagree with Sitchin. They said he fundamentally misread the language. Michael Heiser, a scholar of ancient Semitic languages, issued a public challenge. Produce a single line of cuneiform that describes the Anunnaki as inhabiting other planets, or meaning people of the fiery rockets. Nobody could. The word Anunnaki does not mean those who from heaven to earth came, as Sitchin translated it. In Standard Sumerian, it means princely offspring, or seed of the prince. His translation required breaking the word into components that don't follow accepted Sumerian grammar rules. Nibiru, which Sitchin called a hidden 12th planet, appears in Babylonian astronomical texts as a word meaning crossing or crossing point. It's associated with Jupiter, or the point where celestial paths intersect, not with a rogue planet. And astronomers have confirmed a planetary body on a 3,600-year orbit would destabilize the entire solar system. There is no genetic evidence supporting alien DNA in the human genome. The Human Genome Project mapped every chromosome. What researchers found was evidence of natural evolution, shared DNA with primates, not extraterrestrials. Sitchin's most dramatic claim, that humans were genetically engineered, has no biological support whatsoever. Scholars argue Sitchin cherry-picked passages, mistranslated key terms, and ignored context that contradicted his thesis. His books are classified as pseudo-archaeology by every major academic institution that has reviewed them. And yet, dismissing Sitchin doesn't actually resolve everything the tablets describe. So if Sitchin was wrong about the translations, about Nibiru, about the genetic engineering, does that mean the Sumerian texts are just ancient mythology? Not quite, because when scholars translate these tablets accurately, what they find is still remarkable, and some of it remains genuinely unexplained. The original Sumerian texts, properly translated by credentialed scholars, contain claims that are extraordinary on their own. The Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation epic built on Sumerian foundations, describes the universe beginning as a formless, watery chaos. Then a great separation, heaven and earth, divided from a single primordial substance. That creation narrative predates the book of Genesis by at least 1,000 years. The parallels are striking and well documented. A formless void, a separation of waters above from waters below, the creation of humanity from divine substance mixed with earth. 7 tablets in the Enuma Elish, 7 days of creation in Genesis. The pattern is undeniable. In the Sumerian version of creation, humanity was formed from the blood of a slain god mixed with clay. The god's name was Wei-Ilu, sometimes translated as a god who had intelligence. Humans inherited something divine. They were made to carry the burden of labor so the gods could rest. The Sumerians knew the planets of the solar system and recorded the movements of Jupiter and Saturn with mathematical precision centuries before any comparable civilization. Their astronomical observations were accurate enough that modern scholars can verify their data against computer models. For a civilization that emerged from mud brick villages, this level of knowledge remains difficult to explain. Their mathematical system, base 60, the sexagesimal system, gave us 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, 360 degrees in a circle. This system wasn't primitive. It was mathematically sophisticated and appeared seemingly fully formed, with no clear developmental precursor in the archaeological record. Then there's the question of Eridu itself, the oldest city in the world according to both archaeology and the King List. Excavations uncovered 18 successive temple layers, built directly on top of one another, stretching back to approximately 5400 BCE, every single one dedicated to Enki, the god, the texts say, created humanity. 18 temples built on the same spot over thousands of years to the same god, the one credited with making the human race. Mainstream archaeology calls this continuous religious tradition. Ancient astronaut theorists call it something very different. The physical evidence supports neither conclusion with certainty. The mystery persists. In early 2025, researchers published a translation of a 4,400-year-old Sumerian tablet that had been sitting untranslated in a museum collection for decades. It described the storm god Eskur trapped in the underworld, with the Anunnaki holding council to determine his fate. The text was previously unknown to scholarship. Thousands of cuneiform tablets remain untranslated in museums around the world. The British Museum alone holds over 130,000 pieces. Every few years, a new translation emerges that adds another piece to the puzzle. The Sumerian record, the oldest written record of human civilization, is far from complete. So where does this leave us? Sitchin's translations were demonstrably wrong. The linguistic evidence for extraterrestrial Anunnaki doesn't survive scholarly scrutiny. But the real Sumerian texts describe a creation myth that predates and parallels the Bible by a millennium. Kings who ruled for impossible spans of time. Knowledge that appeared with no clear origin. The Anunnaki weren't aliens, at least not in the way Sitchin described them. But they weren't ordinary gods either. They were the first gods humanity ever committed to writing. And the story the Sumerians told about them is older, stranger, and far more detailed than most people realize. What do you think? Do the Sumerian texts record contact with something beyond human understanding? Or are they the creative mythology of humanity's first great civilization? Let me know in the comments. If you want more investigations like this, subscribe. We go deep on cases like this every single week.